1998, doing an interview with Jack Phillips of Dixon, California.
When I talked to Terry Cook on the phone, she asked about where my Phillips families came to Dixon. So my great-grandfather, John Moore Curry, was a lawyer in New York State, sailed for San Francisco via the Isthmus of Panama, and reached California in August 1849. He visited the gold fields and returned to San Francisco and opened law office there. He probably felt there'd be more gold in San Francisco than the gold fields. He returned to New York and brought his wife and son Montgomery back to San Francisco that had been destroyed by fire and settled in Benicia, where the capital was located. He practiced law there for 10 years. He received the equivalent of half a Mexican league of land for his services as attorney in a land grant suit, and purchased an equivalent tract amounting to 4,437 acres north of Dixon. He ran for governor of California in 1859, but was defeated. He moved back to San Francisco and opened a law office there. He was elected Justice of the Supreme Court of California on the Union ticket, serving 4 years, the last 2 as Chief Justice. He retired from law practice when he became partially blind. After the 1906 earthquake and fire, he and his wife moved to his ranch property near Dixon. His 2 sons, Montgomery and Robert, were involved in the ranch holdings, raising grain, fruit, stock, and Percheron horses.
Did they use the big horses to plow it, do you know?
I'm sure they used that for the plowing and pulling harvesters, although I think they used a lot of mules for ranch walk work too. Let's see. Robert John Curry, his son, married Lily Buckney and had 4 children: Edith, Cornelia, Laura, and Robert Spencer Curry. Edith Curry married Dr. Otto Schulze and had 2 sons. Laura Curry married and widowed with no children. Robert Curry married Bernita Wakefield and had 2 daughters and 1 son. Curry and Curry and Schulze offspring and myself still farm part of the Curry Ranch. Dix Community Church was located on Main Street, and a stained glass window dedicated to Reverend Charles Alva Buckby he was the father of my grandmother. The younger Robert Curry attended the University of California at Berkeley, where he met and befriended Charles Phillips, where they were fraternity brothers. They visited the Curry Ranch, where Charles met Cornelia, called Nina, and their friendship flourished, and they were married in 1912. They took over the Curry Orchard, where they raised apricots, peaches, oranges, olives, vineyard, and almonds. My mother tried to raise turkeys on the ranch, but they got out of the pen and pecked all the dried apricots on the drying trays, so you had to get rid of the
Thanksgiving dinner early, huh?
Yes. After the addition of Grainland, the name was changed to the Phillips Ranch. 4 children were born. I was the youngest and the only son, and I was born on the ranch. Pitt, Tremont, Grant, district served farm children with grades up to the 8th when students moved to the high school in Dixon.
Is that the same high school that's on A Street?
Same location.
Oh, okay.
It was torn down and rebuilt the same place.
Okay.
The old Curry School, located near at Severs Road and Stevenson Bridge Road, was torn down and a new school built about 1920 at Phillips Road and Stevenson Bridge Road. We lived about 1¼ miles north of the school. We rode horses for transportation to school, where a narrow but long, open-sided barn stabled the horses. One end of the barn was closed and was used for a woodshed. Across the road, a row of eucalyptus trees grew, and the students had wood and bark, gathering classes to supply the heating room stove in the winter. When I was 7, after school, we were riding back to my home when my cinch slipped and the saddle turned turtle and I broke my arm. My mother was behind us when the accident occurred. I probably turned to wave to her when the cinch slipped, and she picked me up in her car. I still remember the poor horse named Bonnie trying to get rid of the saddle hanging under her belly. The teacher at the old Curry School was Mrs. Hay. The teacher at the new school where I went to school was Mrs. Williamson. She lived in Southern California and stayed at the neighbor's house during the school year. Her husband, named George, visited at times but must have worked in Southern California. She usually wore a starched white uniform like a nurse's. She was a large woman and she was the boss. She was a very good teacher. I graduated at Curry School in 1934. About 30 in the school, 4 graduated at that year. I finished in 6½ years and went to high school at 12. I think they had to move up to the higher classes so they wouldn't have so many classes to teach. We had no buses at that time to go to school. Sisters were at college. So I started driving at 12 years of age. I parked 2 blocks from school and walked to school. After a few weeks of driving, the CHP officer, Carl Thunberg, did not approve of driving so young, so my mother drove me 8 miles to Dixon and back twice a day. As a junior and at 14, received my license and drove to school. I drove a 1930 Ford Model A Roadster. One winter morning, after a couple of inches of snow, the car skidded in the snow and was heading in the opposite direction. I was not stuck, but had to turn around and head back for Dixon. My father grew oranges and received telephone orders, and I would deliver oranges to townspeople before school started in the morning. A full 60-pound box of oranges put on a sorting table and poured in a burlap grain sack, tied them with string, and hauled them in the rumble street. We had 2 railroad crossings in Dixon, and each crossing, a tower with an operator worked the railroad gates. Driving after dark in the rain with a couple of friends, the gateman was either slow or I was driving too fast, and the gate came down on us, ripping the cloth roof. I backed out and waited for the train, but the operator was probably cursing teenagers. The old highway came from Sacramento and through Davis, where the underpass funneled the traffic under the railroad tracks, and went west on Russell Boulevard. It turned south on Pedrick Road, crossed Pewter Creek on Clausen Bridge, and turned west again on Severs Road. It then turned south again on Curry Road and changed to Main Street. Traffic past the North Railroad crossing, turns west at the Dawson corner, passes the West Railroad crossing, turns south following railroad tracks on what now is South Porter Road, and heads west again to Midway Road. After an accident where a bus and a train collided, the main road was relocated on North Adams to avoid the railroad crossings. Part of the Lincoln Highway was built with paving material between two strips of concrete about 8 inches wide to hold the pavement in place. About 200 yards of it still is used south of West A Street near the railroad crossing. The constable at that time was Clay Grove. Speed cop was Jerry Stearns, driving a 1934 Ford V8 coupe. The railroad depot had a ramp to drive vehicles to unload or load. We used to ship wool by train. They had a small warehouse where they could store products. Mr. Marker was the station master. Passenger trains ran regularly several times a day, and the early morning train would pick up the milk cans for the trip to the creamery. I can remember the California Alfalfa Company, where the alfalfa hay was ground and sacked. Later was called the Cargill Mill. Bill Lyon was the head of the California Alfalfa Company. Granger's warehouse next to the tracks stored sacked grain. The grain came from, grain was sacked and hauled from the field to the warehouse, where it was stacked at least 12 or 16 feet high on piles of sacks. And I've always admired those workers that carried those 130 pounds wheat sacks up and stacked them. On Main Street, Carpenter Hardware, Legion Hall, the Oscar Schulze clothing store later became Grady Grocery Store, and still later Barker's Savings Center Market. Farmers Exchange in Washington Kenny has been moved and closed actually on the west of railroad tracks. George Steinmiller had a harness shop where they sacked saddles and repaired part of harness.
Did you know Watsy Kilkenny?
Yes.
Do you know him? He still lives in the area, doesn't he?
Yes. I think his father started the store. Watsy's still around. First National Bank with Angus Madden. Nearby was George Hedges Barber from the sports shop. Nickham Meat Market. Bert LaFontaine Clothing Store. Masonic Lodge. Hall. Ike Beckley Clothing Store. The Acme Club. Tony Gonzalez Barber. Little Gerlach Ice Cream Shop. Kirby's Drug Store. Good Johnson Hardware. Later, Dawson Bar and Restaurant. Dawson's was on the east side of Main Street when I was going to high school. It was later moved to the
you guys have a hangout as teenagers when you went to high school? You know, sort of.
I don't know.
It wasn't the ice cream shop, huh? That's where I would have been.
No. I guess I've been there sometimes. We used to have a diagonal parking on Main Street. Put more cars in there.
Yeah.
Shirley building is on the east of Main Street. Gus Shirley was a jeweler. And we had Meat Market, Hans Royer, Grain and Insurance, Bob McKenzie, Will and Sheep, Dixon Theater, Wagley Chevrolet, later became Hughes Brothers Chevrolet and Case Tractor. Of course, a lot of those buildings have been torn down, replaced. Bank of America, Max Cowden. The old post office building had offices in the second floor. Dr. Stolley was physician, Dr. George Wrigley the dentist. At one time he dropped a filling on the floor and we had to look for it on hands and knees. Dr. Parsons was a physician and his office was in his house. Fossey Brothers had a shop with Alice Chalmers equipment and Oakland and Pontiac cars. Later they sold Oldsmobiles. On West A Street, one time was a stable and a hay barn. Later it was torn down and Charlie McGimsey had a Ford dealership. Same block, they had the Ice House. We had the corner cafe, which is right across from Dawson. We had Shell Service Station. Cecil Belden had the service station, and later it was Pike Thompson Station. Dixon Bakery was run by the Secrets. Dixon Tribune office was on Main Street, run by the Dunnicliffs. Also had Dixon Lumber, Firehouse, and we had a small jail. I've never been in it. Torn down by now. It was pretty small, maybe 1 or 2 cells. Dixon had 2 meat packing plants. Mason Meat Company later became Armour Meat and was closed later. Can't remember the name of the people who started the other meat company. It was sold later to Stoven Brothers and later became Superior Farms. Art Brown's livestock auction yard on Severs Road was moved a little, made a larger yard, and North Main became Dixon Livestock Auction with the Shanes running it. And now it's closed and gone. The northwest corner of Dixon was the Parkhurst Dairy. Doyle Dairy, also known as the Tim Dairy, was discontinued and later was a feedlot, and it's torn down. They fed both sheep and cattle. Carl Smizer was a rancher and was the head of the county and crew repairing or building new roads. As I remember, we had 3 churches in the 30s. Community Church on Main Street, Methodist Church, which had moved from Sillyville, and the Catholic Church. Usually had a town baseball team. They played on Sundays, sparked by the Royer men. A couple of the Royers were big leaguers. The annual fair was held in May. Thoroughbred racehorses with pari-mutuel betting was a big thing in the 30s. Savannah County Fair in Vallejo pulled strings on the horse racing that discontinued and started at the county fair. Many ranchers had their own racetracks for training and racing with neighbors' horses. One was owned by Del Dudley south of the freeway and east of Prairie Road. The high school was condemned after graduation in 1938. That's the year that we graduated. It said that my class was too much for it. The next year, during the construction of a new building, the high school was held in the gymnasium. The classrooms were partitioned about 8 feet high. The noise from other classes must have been most distracting. The swimming pool was constructed about 1937. I swam at a high school swim meet that year, and I think I almost drowned because of running swam a backstroke, and I wasn't very good at backstroke.
No, I'm not good at any of those strokes. Let me back up and ask you a little bit about the horse racing.
Okay.
Now, was that buggy racing or was that saddle racing?
Thoroughbred, just
Okay.
jockey on the horse.
Jockeys?
Yeah.
Okay.
And there was a half-mile track, and they had mutual betting, just like they do at Vallejo now, and it was quite popular.
Oh, I guess it still is. Wherever they can do it. It's a
I think there was a little problem because the Solano County Fair had pull more strings so they could get rid of it in Dixon and went to Vallejo to the county fair.
Yeah. The fairgrounds. Now, did you guys ever do very much in the fair? I mean, as farmers, did you take your produce into the fair? Did your mother take stuff to the fair, or?
We usually took sheep to the fair. Our kids went to the fair with 4-H and the teacher was farmer animal, both sheep and cattle.
Now, has it changed much over the years, the fair and the fairgrounds? Because I know it's such a nice country fair. I just love it.
There was a very good bleachers, covered bleachers, and good for football games or rodeos or watch the fair, whatever's going on. And it got too old, so we thought it was too expensive to repair it, so they tore it down.
You know, in this heat, oh man, you want some kind of covering. It's so hot in the summertime.
It was real nice.
But now they usually have the fair here, what, in May or something, when it's not too hot yet?
Yeah, about the 1st or 2nd May, week of May.
That's what I remembered it.
Call it the May Fair now.
Yeah. It's a nice little fairground, but it's, you know, would seem to be easy to get into and out of. Okay, we're just about the middle of the tape, so let's stop it for now.
And the land grant was in this area here. The map was given to me by a neighbor. It's pretty old.
Well, there's Dixon. I see Dixon and Winters. Okay, and you got some different family pictures and things also?
Yes.
Here's a picture of Curry Lane with the machine, as they call it, their car. That's how his mother always referred to it. And what I thought was kind of interesting was that her mother taught his father how to drive a car. He had never driven one until they were married. He had always ridden the horses.
You gotta get around whatever way you can.
Yes, that's right.
And this one, the other one that down here is what?
The Mayfair.
And do you know about what year?
I'm not sure if it says. No, it doesn't, but May Queen was Grace Sommers.
Had quite a crowd.
Yes,
Yeah,
they
I
did.
know. I love
They
their
did.
outfits.
Yeah, quite fascinating. And before they had the dam at Pewter Creek, this is how the creek looked, and they spent many a summer day down enjoying it. Boating, fishing. We had bass
A lot of black bass in there.
and, yes.
Oh, now that sounds better.
Yeah, right. And it does.
I like fishing.
Yeah.
And over here we have a brochure for Dixon.
Yes. Did you get it or not?
Yeah. Do we know about what time period this would be?
Well, when was that school torn down? Yeah, so it was before that.
Oh, yes, much before that.
Yeah.
Probably in the 20s.
in the 20s.
Okay.
That's when you went to school there. When these buildings were up.
Yeah.
Now this top one over here, now this is your school that's there?
That's the
Your
high
high
school.
school?
Yeah.
Nice looking high school.
Yeah.
Torn down after 1938. The lowest picture was the grammar school, which was torn down in 70s, I guess, when the new one was built.
And that was called the C.A. Jacobs School, right?
Well, at that time it was just a
Was it? Oh.
grammar school.
Oh. And then later it was C.A. Jacobs.
And the other's one of your awards, huh?
Oh,
Yes.
Jack, can you turn it around so we can get it
yeah.
on?
Like that?
Mm-hmm. That's
Yeah.
just fine.
Yeah, he was on the cemetery board for 16 years. And then he was on the Dixon School Board for 19 years. Involved in wool growers and Farm Bureau and what other? A lot, it seemed like. They were always on the go.
And Charlene, did you have some pictures over in the book family album?
I can keep it together here.
We raised four children, 2 sons and 2 daughters. The daughters were both school
Teachers.
teachers.
And do they live in this area?
One teaches in Dixon at Tremont School, and the other one teaches in Amador County on it. But this is the old bridge across Pewter Creek. They now have a cement bridge.
Mm-hmm.
But Jack and his father used to run the sheep along the banks of the river for feed and whatnot.
Yeah, a little greener grass, huh?
Yes, right, yeah. And this, I don't know if this will come out or not, that's drilling a well in 1938, I believe it was. Was that the first well that you had put on the ranch?
For irrigation, yes.
Yeah. Well, how did you irrigate before that?
They pumped water from the creek
Oh, from Pewter Creek. Oh,
to 2
okay.
pumping stations.
Yeah. Oh,
Had the orchard, so it needed the irrigation.
a lot of water, yes. Well, that's right. Right. It looks like this is a snow that you had in 1937, that said.
Snowed all over in the valley in 1937.
Yeah, evidently.
Oh, that's right. So I wonder if that's the same year that it snowed in Sacramento. I remember
Could
seeing
be.
the streets with
Yeah,
snow on them.
yeah, that could be. And sheep, they did have a lot of sheep. Well, they're your workhorses, honey. And what were their names?
Dolly and Bess.
Is
Dolly
that your
and Bess.
Perchins?
I think those are Belgians.
Belgium?
Belgium, yeah. And here's the newer bridge, a concrete bridge. But this is where they run the sheep along the banks of Pewter Creek. Right. both our sons are in livestock business. One lives in eastern Oregon and one lives in eastern Nevada.
And how many grandchildren do you have now?
We have 17 and 5 great-grandchildren, almost 6 great-grandchildren.
One in the oven.
Yeah, right.
Surprising that we look so young with all those great grandchildren.
Oh, sure.
Well, you guys are in wonderful health.
Well, he's had a couple of heart attacks, but he's and a stroke, but he's getting there. Doing pretty good.
He doesn't look it.
But they showed purebred Suffolk sheep,
Mm.
and they went to all the different shows and whatnot.
My father raised dog,
Pigs.
swine
Mm-hmm.
in 1931 or 32, and then he went raised some sheep, and they ran hogs and the sheep together. They had to get rid of the pigs because the pigs were chewing the ears on the sheep.
Oh, I'll never do.
No, that's for sure.
We went into the cattle business in 1946, about the year we were married. I've been raising cattle. I still have some in Nevada, but
Here's a picture of our children.
I don't know how it's going to focus in on these pictures, but we'll give it
Yeah.
a try.
Okay. That'll be good. So our daughter Melissa's house, Melissa Glide. That's when they gave us our 50th wedding anniversary party.
Oh boy, you are racking them up.
Yeah, right. That we are.
I've raised cattle in 11 or 12 counties in California. I've raised them in Oregon and Nevada. I've never had more than one at a time, one lease at a time.
Yeah, one location.
So
Now-
it wasn't a big operation.
When you raised cattle and produce and different things, did you have local markets that you took them to?
The almonds went to the California Almond Growers Exchange. Sugar beets went to Spreckles.
And wool.
Wool went to the California Wool
Wool growers.
Marketing and other buyers.
Now, are those just local? I mean, I'm not that familiar with the different.
Well, Stockton, Sacramento. Tomatoes went to Hunt's and Davis. Corn usually went to Adams or Cargill. Wheat the same way. Sheep was used, purebred stock went to the California Wool Growers Association sale. And market lambs go to now they're Superior, used to be
Mace.
Armors or Mason.
We go to, how many ram sales a year? 3 or 4?
The
Yeah, 3 anyway, what we sell.
Now, do you still have cattle and sheep and?
We have sheep here. We have just a few cattle left, but they're still in my son John's place in Nevada.
Nevada.
Mm-hmm.
Taking some of the livestock up there, being that he's had his heart
I'm
attack.
Mhm.
thinking about retiring.
Just thinking about it. Okay. I don't know if I'd want to retire either.
Yeah.
Okay, but you have sheep here locally,
Yes,
and about how many?
we have about 100 breeding ewes, about 40, 35 ram lambs to be sold in the next 9 or 10 months.
Yeah.
Now, are they Suffolk or?
Suffolk.
Yeah. Okay. And as far as produce, do you still raise? I call it produce. I don't know that you'd call nuts produce, but anyway.
Well, we have this year we're growing corn for feed. We have irrigated pasture for the sheep. We have pasture that's leased out for some cattle. We raised oat hay, which El Nino got us wet.
So did you manage to get it in time, or?
We got it baled, but it was after rain, so
Has rain damage.
Oh.
Yeah.
we're still looking for a buyer.
And then we leased out some wheat fields
This year.
this year. Yeah.
So how many acres was your original family land, and how many do you have now?
The original family acreage was 680. I have 80 acres here. I farm about 200 acres here on the same ranch with other landlords.
Yeah, he subleases it. And grows crops.
Now, do any of your other, your original family, your brothers and sisters, live in the area? Or sisters? I guess you don't have a brother,
Yeah.
right?
I've had two sisters that died. We have my middle sister, Marianne, lives in Sacramento. She's a retired school teacher. She's very active in historical societies. Travels quite a bit.
Yeah, she's going to the Holy Land in October, so she's done a lot of traveling.
Yeah, October's a good month to go too. It's not as
Yeah.
hot as it is now.
Yeah, right. She's taken all of our children on trips. A lot of our grandchildren.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah, so it makes it real nice.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
great.
we enjoyed it. We go to Europe and gone to Scotland and Holland, Greece. I'm trying to think of all the places she's taken them.
World travelers.
Yes, that's for sure. Still like to travel.
Okay, another question, kind of jumping subjects and time periods here. In fact, maybe we could sit down.
Alrighty.
That sort of thing. Or block it out even.
There we go.
Okay. One thing we haven't touched on yet was the Depression years. Now, did the Depression years affect your family very much in this area?
I don't know much about it. I know there was one crop of prunes that they didn't even pick because the price was so low. We had food on our table.
I
A farmer, you
farmer
should.
than that, yeah.
Yeah, but you grew prunes. What other kind of fruits and vegetables did you guys grow? I mean, this obviously would have been when you were a kid, a little
Yeah.
kid.
Mostly it was almonds, prunes, and apricots on the orchard side.
A lot of orchards were around here, surrounded this small. Over the years they've gotten old and they've taken them out and put other crops in, you know. I know right outside our house here, that used to be all orchard there. We had first lived in a little cottage right up on Pewter Creek that belonged to his aunt that she had built for a summer home. We lived there for
6 years.
6 years, and then we built this house as we had more children, and lived here
8 years.
8 years. And then his father had passed away, so we traded houses with his mother. And she lived here until she was, what, 92 before she passed away.
You know, he's got a couple more years to go before he can retire.
I know, right, that's for sure. That's for sure.
But I don't remember the Depression years really, except that one crop that didn't harvest.
Okay, now did you guys have migrant workers come through and pick crops each year?
Yes, especially on the prunes, the 2 years, 2 gypsy families came in and picked the prunes.
very interested, and they lived in tents, and
Neat.
they had to have a lamb at the end of each season so they could celebrate, and they would roast the lamb.
Big party.
Had a big party. And then the next group that we had,
Mexican family from Campbell, I think,
Almanza.
came in from August to harvest the prunes,
I think there were, 11 of them altogether?
something like that.
And they had all the children with them,
Mm-hmm.
and they all helped pick the prunes and everything. Real nice family. We really
I
liked
know,
them.
kids can be a big help.
Oh, yes, right, yeah. Oh, that's for sure.
The prunes were shaken on the ground and was picked up by hand. It took a lot of hands.
You'd have to beat the almond trees so the
Did
nuts
you have
would
to-
fall.
Oh, I wonder, because I know now they have these big machinery that come
Yeah.
up with forks and they
Yeah.
drive up to a tree and shake the whole tree and it's
Yeah.
going, ow!
Yeah, they do that.
The almond harvest, usually a man or several men go up in a tree and use a mallet to hit the branches to put the almonds down.
Yeah.
And then they go from the ground with tall poles and get the ones that they miss.
So it was quite a bit of labor to
Yeah.
get them.
They went on
I mean, like you needed some kids that were good at climbing trees.
Yeah,
Having
right,
fun.
right.
I tried knocking almonds, but I guess I was too big, and
Tall,
Yeah.
it got awful hard work.
yeah. Sure, you could do it.
We later went to a knocking machine that took a lot of the labor out of it.
Well, on the apricots too, you did a lot of drying, and that was a lot of hand labor too. We had this packing shed, and they would hire women to come in, and they would cut them all in half and put them and whatnot, and then they put them on these great big huge trays, wooden trays, and they would, well, you had little like railroad tracks,
Yeah.
with this little car that you'd stack the trays on. They would take them out to the field, lay them out in the sun to dry, and then they would put them back in the carts and bring them in at night. Was that it, or did you leave them out overnight?
Leave them outside.
Leave them out
Unless the
overnight.
weather was bad.
Yeah.
Didn't have any fat opossums around, did you?
The turkeys.
Oh.
The turkeys.
Back to those turkeys again. We gotta fatten them up for Thanksgiving. What the heck?
Yeah. And then with the prunes, you had that big prune dipper. You might tell about that.
Well, in the 20s, they were drying prunes on trays. And evidently they had a lot of rain while the crop was on the ground. So my father later built a prune dehydrator, so we wouldn't have to bother with that. So they dip prunes in the lye solution, spread them on the trays, and put them in the dehydrator. And cars, double stacks of trays, about 20 trays high. It's 7 cars, still a load.
So they had quite a few little railroad tracks around. You see that?
Oh, yeah.
They would put all these on.
So when you got everything all dried, did you take it in somewhere else for packaging, or did you do the packaging here yourself, or?
Just after they're dried, they go into what they call a packing shed, and they get the prunes out from the tray, just scrape them so the prunes will fall off, and then make a big pile of bin, and after it's set for several weeks, they sack them up and haul them off to a sunsweet or somebody.
They seemed to sack everything, of course, in those days,
Right,
you know, because they didn't
yeah.
have the bulk where they used the trucks and whatnot, like the grain and everything was all sacked. What else did you have?
Well, all the grain was sacked from the harvester,
That's right.
dropped on the ground, and picked up and hauled to a warehouse or storage area.
I can remember as a kid down at Rio Vista, being able to stand up on the harvester and watch the sacks go down like a slide is what it really was, and it was wooden, but
Yeah.
they just slid right down.
Now, did most of the people in the Dixon area grow the same kind of fruits and vegetables and hay or whatever that your family grew or that you grew?
Well, we have better conditions here for fruit.
The soil and the weather.
Around Dixon, it was mostly grain, alfalfa, and they didn't grow much irrigated row crops at that time that I can remember.
Yeah. Did the fields require much fertilizer? I mean, I look around now and everything seems to grow very well.
All fertilizer. Did you use fertilizer or did you just use manure or what?
I can't remember.
Yeah.
As long as I can remember, though, we used commercial fertilizer.
Oh.
I know in the prunes, my dad bought a lot of dairy manure and fertilized them.
Yeah.
And we did a lot of other fertilizing too.
Now, as far as natural disasters go, obviously you had the snowstorm in, what, 1937?
Yeah.
Did you have anything like floods or fires come through that caused you problems or other people in the Dixon area problems?
We had a flood in the winter of 1939 and 40 when apparently the brush, the trees had grown up in the channel of the Peter Creek. So the water went over the banks of the creek between here and Winters on both sides. So from here house to the half a mile south, this was all flooded. This location was not flooded, but our neighbor close by here, she was pretty well flooded and had to haul off on a wagon with horses. But took a lot of fences were washed out. Some sheep were lost. One of my dad's neighbors, Percy Stoner, gathered up a lot of sheep that were floating around and put them in his house. So they were
Revive them and save them that way.
Yeah, I know. That flood water, can you imagine this big wool coat on and get it wet, man?
That's right. It gets heavy, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Yes, right. Percy
Now, did the floods in 86 and then again in the 90s affect you guys out here at all? The ones in Sacramento? I mean, they were obviously flooded Sacramento. Like
Yeah.
crazy, but-
We had a lot of water in the fields, and the slough just to the south of us flooded, but pretty well drained out. Pretty good here.
We're kind of on a high spot, would you say?
We lost some crops.
Yeah.
The drain was just drowned out. We tried to put another crop in.
Our little timekeeper.
Yeah.
Well, is there anything in closing that you might specifically want to mention about Dixon or living here in Dixon, or?
We've lived here for many years.
You longer than I.
Our address has always been Dixon, but now we changed our address to Winters,
So our rural route is Winters.
so we're not even Dixon people anymore.
And we have a Davis
Oh, you'll always
phone.
be Dixon.
We have a Davis phone, so we're kind of right in the middle of.
Right, well, you're
all
not
three
really that
towns.
far from Dixon, though, are you?
No,
Mile wide.
7 miles, yeah.
Yeah.
And the way it's growing, it's going to be here eventually.
I know.
Well, Dixon's working its way this direction, too.
I
In fact, I
know.
think it might be growing more south of the freeway than it is this
Yeah,
way, but
yeah.
It's sure growing and changing too.
Oh, yes, it sure is.
If
Lots
you
of
don't
houses.
keep an eye on Davis, he'll come visit you too.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Kind of right here in this little triangle.
Yeah.
Now, we had good life here.
Oh, I think so.
Always had meals on the table and struggled a little bit sometimes.
We had such good kids.
Yeah?
No problem.
Got you a nice family.
Yeah, really. Real nice kids.
And grandkids and great-grandkids.
Yeah, all kinds.
Oh.
Okay.
Well, I am sure that this will be helpful to many of us in the area
I
when we
hope
go
so.
looking for some research to do and
Yeah,
will give us some idea of what it was like
good.
in Dixon over the years.
Try to get things organized now, I sure wasn't. Before.
Oh. But we'll go ahead and turn it off for now.
All right. Because we moved from the big two-story house down here.